Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
All right, good to have you on the show. This is Omobola Stephen, the host of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. On the show, we focus on personal development and self-improvement topics, and we occasion profound insight from experts who are adepts in this topic of personal development and self-improvement. We emphasize the need for us to intentionally focus on personally developing ourselves because all of the potentials, innate gifts that lies within us can only come to the fore to be maximized and harnessed for good, even to our benefit at the end of the day, when we are intentionally about looking forward and looking inwards, asking the right questions, and looking for ways on how to improve on ourselves. And having done this, we realize that there's so much bounties that life has in store for us. Now, when we don't give up on personally developing ourselves and also improving on what we find out at the end of the day. This is the mission and the focus of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. We want to pivot the positive transformations and changes that you and I need in this side of eternity, in as much so that we can begin to live a fulfilling life at the end of the day. I have Gabrielle Browne on the show with me today. Thank you, Gabrielle, for joining me. Now, Gabrielle is the creator and founder of Dynamic Unicorn, a business advisory services for startups, small businesses, and over 50s. Great to have you on the show and looking forward to a great time as we talk about disrupting the hustle culture narrative, how we can begin to build with sanity, not with burnout. Great to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Absolutely, great to have you. Now, Gabrielle, you help women break free from societal pressure and the false belief that equates what with hustle. Now, hustling culture is a mindset that promotes relentless 24/7 work and the belief that success is solely achieved through intense, constant effort. So why should we begin to change the narratives in this regard?
Yeah, so I actually really relate to that because I'm one of these people where, growing up in a small country town, having to, I guess, expand out of that country town and develop my own career. I had that philosophy that the only way to be successful was to work, 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 work. Work to the, point of exhaustion and burnout. And the one thing I've kind of realized over the years, and I've had a very interesting career from starting in fashion right through to co-founding a medtech startup, is that it's really, really important to take time out for yourself. Things will get done, things will progress forward. And the way that I've learned to do that is to take a step back, have a look at the plan, really develop that plan of what you're wanting to do in your own business or side hustle, whatever that is, and stick to that, and don't be so hard on yourself that, oh, if I don't work, if I don't do this, it's not going to get done, because it will get done. I think we as women are really, really hard on ourselves when it comes to achievement. And I know for myself, I've suffered massive imposter syndrome as, whether I can do things or whether I can't. And the one thing that I've kind of really developed for myself is to back myself. And backing myself is it means taking time out and not feeling guilty that, okay, I'm not working 24/7, 7 days a week. So yeah, it's a really important topic that I think us women, need to discuss more, and really discuss the reasons why we feel we have to be, constantly, working and constantly trying to prove ourselves to other people.
Yeah. Now, if we have that mindset that, oh, how will my business survive without me? I need to constantly do the needful. when we don't find ourselves in this situation, just like what you said, we don't have the right support system or a delegation system that can help us in this journey called entrepreneurship. How then can we begin to say we are not going to be in the overdrive of the grinding culture?
Yeah, look, that's a really interesting question because, a lot of us being in that grinding culture is because we think that we cannot do anything without ourselves. The one thing I've had to learn, especially with starting a medtech startup, is that we have to trust our people. We have to trust that what we're doing is right. And so I've had to learn a lot around, okay, how do I be more effective? How can I look at time management? How can I really look at what I'm doing and making sure that I am focusing on the things that are important, not the things that are urgent? Because, when you are, a solopreneur, and currently in my new venture, I'm a solopreneur, I really have to focus on working on my business rather than constantly in my business. It's that fine balance. And the only way I have learnt how to do that is that I schedule time. I schedule time for when I start work, when I finish work. When I finish work, then I don't do work, because otherwise you get stuck in that loop. You get stuck in that loop where you're suddenly constantly doing emails and suddenly someone wants things urgently. You can train your business and the people that are engaging in your business to how you work. You don't necessarily have to bow to how, you know, other people want you to work, if that makes sense. And so when you're putting things in place for your business, for example, your customer journey, your customer will learn how you want to work, how you want your business to run. Same with your suppliers. So you can train them to work your way rather than you bowing down to working their way, if that makes sense. And so I'm a firm believer, time management, having really good boundaries, really looking at your customer journey and how you want your business to run, and then sticking with that plan rather than constantly diverting.
All right, Gabrielle, I wanted to ask you this question. Are you a solopreneur? Now, when it comes to the solopreneur journey, we've had folks who've been in this business for 5, 6, 7 years doing solopreneurship. Now, we know that it's very daunting. So what advice or what tips can you begin to share? Can you share with this set of people to begin to overcome this mentality of the hustling culture?
Yeah, so I guess it comes down to first of what your business goals are. So to give you an example, for me, I started this probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So I was a bit of in a crossroads with my medtech business. So um, we obviously, my husband and I co-founded the medtech business. We, have shareholders. It's pre-revenue. They're about to launch, and I came at a crossroads where I wanted to do something that was sort of more aligned with what my goals and my values were. And so I decided to step down from the business. But before I did that, I started basically a hustle culture in the sense of, well, I'll just see, maybe I can do it, maybe I can't do it. I was in two minds around it. And it just kind of ticked over for a little bit. I wasn't earning a lot of money, but I was happy doing what I was doing. And then I decided, look, if I'm going to do this, I need to really give it a go. And for me, in order to give it a go, I had to actually focus more on the strategy. And so for probably the last 12 months, I've been working on that strategy, still moving forward with my business. I've probably had the biggest 12 months of my life in my business because I decided to work on the strategy in my business and started to implement things. In order to grow your business, to turn it from a side hustle into something that can turn over whilst you're not there, you have to think bigger than what you are in it. And so the question I always come up with is, how can I duplicate myself so that if I did step away, the business still works? This business is still ticking over and I'm still generating money. Now, that's a hard thing to do because a lot of people, and I'm not saying everyone, but some people are very caught up in, well, it can only survive without me. And you know what, in some cases that is true. But in order to move beyond that, you have to work out a system or a way to trust your employees, or to put people in place that can manage your business so you can step away and work on your business. If you can't work on your business will not grow. It will always be stuck in that cycle of a hustle. And so you really have to spend the time. Sometimes it's days, weeks, months. For me, this has been almost a 12-month journey of implementing, actually developing strategies, redefining those strategies before I've even implemented some of these. Because I want the best chance for success. I want to look at every option that, okay, if this doesn't work, what's my next step? And you always have to be looking at this, because you will find some of the strategies you implement don't work. And so my advice would be, if you're going to fail at it, fail fast, so then you can move to your next strategy. But unless you work on, you know, the bigger picture of what your business is and implementing some of those things, you won't ever get out of that hustle.
All right, invariably, what you're inferring is that we need to begin to take a break out of all of this hustling and bustling mindset that we have, especially as an entrepreneur, in order for us to really achieve a success and the fulfillment that we solely desire. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what I'm actually saying is that as an entrepreneur, you find that when you're working in your business, you still need to work on your business. And so what that means is that, you know, you always have to make money. Absolutely. And your business as a solopreneur is reliant on everything that you do for a transaction. But on those times or those days when you don't work, so let's just say your business is a Monday to Friday business. You've got, you know, one day on the weekend where you can sit and work on strategy. You have to work on long-term strategies of how can I grow it, where I can basically put things in place so that I'm not working the grind 24/7. I hope that makes sense.
All right. Sure. Thank you, Gabrielle, for the insight. So how can we begin to build a business that supports one's wellness without having to be driven by the mentality of constant grind?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing to look at is, what is your driving factors in the business? So if I use me as an example, with my career, so I started in fashion, and I'm not sure if your audience knows a lot about the fashion industry, but the fashion industry is pretty much, well, like the movie that we've all may or may not have seen, The Devil Wears Prada. It is very much like that. You are basically a slave to the industry, working very long hours to have little gains, if that makes sense, and especially if you're an employee for someone. But throughout my journey, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit of, how can I get out of this hustle? And I guess one of the things as I've gotten older is that I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I don't want to have to stress about whether or not I'm going to have a job or a business the next day. And so, you know, for me, I had to really step back and think about, okay, what is actually important? Is money my driving factor? Because if money is my driving factor, you can get a job, you can do anything to earn money. But if purpose is my driving factor, which in my case it was, then purpose is going to lead what I'm going to be doing in my business. Because if I'm leading with my purpose, then it's not really a job for me. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I can pick and choose my hours. And from that, then I started to look at, okay, what am I offering in my business? And how can I turn that into a purpose-driven business where I can earn an income that I want to earn, I can work hours that I want to work, and I'm building my network and my connections around how I want to live my life. And so it's about changing your mind shift on how you view your business, because if you're in that grind, and look, we've all been there, where we need money, we need to put food on the table, and there is, a point in time where, you have to do those things. But again, I come back to, if you have a strategy, if that strategy, you're working on it and you're implementing that strategy, you will see that shift of turning it into a grind and more into something that is sustainable. Because if you're in that grind, it's not sustainable. You'll get burnt out. And burnt out could mean sickness. It could mean you just can't do it. You know what I mean? You wake up every day and and I've been there, it's such a heavy weight to carry, where you have to put yourself in that mindset of, I've got to get out of bed today just to make some dollars to put food on the table. Unless you can work on, how can I do this, and how can I work towards a goal that will get me out of that, where I can be fruitful, I can lead with purpose, and I can have the business that I want. Again, you'll be always in that grind.
All right, and that is where the importance of beginning to have a mind shift. I think that's
Mind shift.
absolutely important. But I know that it takes a journey. We have to be intentional about, having this mind shift. It's a process, but it's what's the weight and what the effort are when we don't give up. Now, most of us are in the overdrive mode of living a life that's it looks so good on the outside, but doesn't feel good on the inside. Yes, I have been there. Maybe you've been there, but
Oh,
I know
yeah.
that there's so many folks who have been there. We just want to, just be in the overdrive, that kind of a mindset, which is leading us nowhere. How can a shift happen?
So can I give you an example? So I'll give you an example of a lady that came to me in my business. And she basically, I was having a meeting in a cafe. I often have meetings in cafes with my clients. And she was sitting next to me. And she came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, I think I need your help." And in our discovery, our first discovery session, like, she had this business for 10 years. She's in, I guess, the alternative healing space. She's an intuitive healer. And she has all these things that she has in her business. When I had a look at her website, it was pages and pages of stuff. And I was like, I actually really don't know what her business is about. And when we actually sat down, and again, I come back to strategy, and she was working in overdrive. She was a single mom trying just to put food on the table. And she had done this for 10 years. And she was at a crisis of, I either give this up or get a job. But she firmly believed that what she is doing will make a difference. And so we sat down and we looked at her business. And what we discovered is that all 12 pillars of her business, which she was trying to sell services on, one was making her money. But with those 12 services, we actually found a way to incorporate those into a process that she could actually sell, which was around that one pillar in her business. And the one thing that she had to do was change her mindset on this. And it was such a beautiful story. And I was only speaking to her the other day about it, because she said the mindset was really hard, because she had to let go of the fear of staying in her current present, to have faith that what we were going to move forward with was actually going to make her money. And she was going to thrive in that space. And it took her a couple of months to mourn the loss of that. And I guess, like, it was a grieving process for her, because She was so stuck in that rut of, you know, trying to make 12 pillars work, that once she let go of it, and once we developed this system for her, opportunities actually opened up. It actually made space for her to focus on the one thing she actually truly loved and wanted to develop in her business. But she could actually see long term how what we had developed was actually going to benefit. And once that mindset shift happened, she literally within a few weeks started to get other opportunities. She like, it was a total shift. She totally changed the look of her website. She totally rebranded. Even her positioning statement of what her business was about, she changed. She was ready. She was actually ready to change the way she wanted to do things and actually position herself to where she wanted to be. She could see it. And that's the most important thing. If you can see it, you can go through that transformation, change your mindset. You know, I guarantee you things will open up for you.
Thank you once again, Gabrielle. That was really an inspired lesson, an experience that you shared with the audience indeed. Now, drawing from your personal story and startup experience, how did emotional intelligence, lean thinking, and community support help founders just like you survive the toughest of season?
Yeah, so they're really, really good, you know, I guess, things to look at when you are in that startup mode. And look, when you're starting a business, it doesn't need to be a massive tech startup like we did. But to explain my journey with it, so when my husband and I started our medtech startup, I actually had no idea about technology, then alone animal medical technology. And I had no idea in how a startup actually kind of worked. I had my own little businesses. And when I say little businesses, they were businesses that ticked over. They were more of a side hustle. I knew things about business, but I didn't really know, you know, in depth what you had to do in business. And so when my husband and I started, like, my husband was doing grad school, he didn't have a job, I was supporting us, and we had to work out how we were going to do this on a shoestring budget. The one thing I learned by adopting a shoestring budget mindset is that if you run lean, you know, your business will be more profitable than thinking you need all of these things within your business. You actually become really creative at how can I do things with a no budget. We actually had no budget for about 10 years. We had to fund everything. We were working jobs. We were working, you know, to pay for development of our tech startup. And I can tell you now, you know, a medtech startup isn't hundreds of dollars. It's more like hundreds of thousands of dollars. We had to budget and work out how we can do it. So you really have to be resourceful, and you really have to, I guess, think outside of the box of how you can do it, how you can grow and build a business without having to find extra resources if you don't have it. When it came to emotional intelligence, this is a really tricky thing because as founders, we're so emotionally invested into what you're creating. The one thing I learned a very long time ago is that as a business owner, you are the person just driving the business to get the results. And in order to be able to do that, we have to put on a different hat. I actually had a really good employer years and years ago where he had a conversation with me, and it stuck with me all through my career since then. And he said, Gab, you know, he was a very successful business owner. He had a lot of arms to his business. He was turning over between 80 to $100 million within his business. And he said to me, Gab, when it comes to this arm of the business which I was involved in, he said, I have to put on my my hat for this business, and I have to make decisions that are not emotional. Because even though I may hate those decisions, but I have to separate that emotion. Because he said, if I don't do that, and if I make decisions based on the emotion behind it, the decision's going to be wrong. And it's one thing my husband struggled with when we started our med tech. And I had the same conversation. We have to put on our hats when we're making decisions. And so I said to him, okay, when we're at work, you can't call me pet names. You can't do this. I actually put boundaries in. And he's like, what are you doing? And I said, we can't do that, because if we have employees, we have to be professional still. Mm-hmm. You can't sit and call me babe. You know what I mean? Like, you have to call me by my name. We have to have those boundaries. And I said, and I have to have tough conversations with you that you're not going to like. I said, but I had to have this transparent conversation with him in order for us to move forward and understand that the decisions that we're making are not personal. And so it's really tricky to do that. And it takes a while to do that. It took my husband 4 years to overcome that, because he leads with emotion. Once he got past that and he's like, okay, I can't do this. I can't lead with emotion. Things started to work better for him. But for me, I had to be firm, because if you lead with emotion, the decisions are not going to be the right decisions for your business. So I physically would, every time we'd have this conversation, I'm like, I'm putting my hat on and I get in that mindset. So then I'm not thinking about how it's going to personally affect me. I'm looking at it logically. I'm looking at those decisions based on, okay, what is right for the business, not what's right for me.
Gabrielle, the question now is, are you really doing business your own way, or just like everyone else? Can we talk?
Yeah, so I guess from my medtech experience and being in what I guess you could say traditional corporate, you know, when you do start a tech startup, you go down those routes of obviously getting investors, and you're looking at scaling your business. You know, the mindset has to change into something that isn't necessarily what the founders ended up wanting the business to be. And that's okay. I decided to step out because, you know, I'm not from a corporate background. I'm from a creative background. I really wanted to do something my own way, because at the end of the day, business is the format of the business, the things that you have to do in the business is the same. You know, you still have to do your market research. You know, you still have to do a business model canvas to make sure that you understand what your value proposition is, your market fit. There's those things that are unique to every business. And if, for example, your customers who are in business or they're starting a business and they haven't done that, I encourage you to do those basic things, you know, even your buyer's persona or avatar, so you fully understand what your business is and what you're launching. But I guess what came out of me stepping out of a business, I really wanted to look at doing business your way. So my motto is, do you in business? Because even though the fundamentals are the same for all businesses, you can actually do it the way you wanted to do it. And so for me, that is, you know, looking at my creative, obviously, I've embraced that. One, I am different. So I don't have long hair. I've kind of got shaved hair with a mohawk. I'm a little bit conservative today. I do dress for the occasion because, again, not everyone is used to seeing someone in business with a mohawk. I'm respectful in that sense, but I still bring it my way. I own my confidence. I do it how I want to do it. I can be creative in it. If you see my background now, you know, it's bloom, it's vibrant, it's very much me. And I've learnt that if I own how I want to bring or do business, people will respect that because you're owning it. You're confident around it. You have to own the consequences. You have to own Every decision that you make in the business will have a positive and a negative effect, but you want to make sure that what you're doing is the positive effect in your business. And so, you know, Get Real with Gab is a podcast that I've developed, and we have real conversations, because everything that happens in business, no one's exempt. No one's exempt from the struggle. No one's exempt from the financial challenges. Even in big business, no one's exempt. But if we get real about it, and we own it, then, you know, there's no sort of hidden surprises, and we can deal with it how we wanted to deal with it. The other thing I wanted to really encourage, I guess, small businesses is that you don't have to aim to be the blue ocean unicorn. And this is the thing that I learned, because to be that, you know, billion-dollar valuation, blue ocean unicorn, it's actually not as common as you think. But what we can do is be our own unicorn. Let's strive to be the success we want to be and the unicorn we want to be, whatever that is. If that's turning over 20,000 a year, 50,000 a year, $1 million a year, it doesn't matter. That's your goal. That's your business. But do it your way. Own it your way, and be that unicorn your own way.
Absolutely, doing business our own way is the way to go. And so how can a local business mindset drive global innovation? That's some tough work, some resilience, effort, a lot of patience, right ecosystem, and all there is to go into that. Can we talk on that?
Yeah, so local business wanting to go global. And look, there's some key things involved in that. And probably the biggest thing is, okay, I'm ticking over nicely. How do we do that in my business? If I want to be a global business, what does that mean? And so the one thing that I would look at and make sure before we did any kind of strategy is making sure that what you're doing has a fit in the market globally. Okay, so for example, if you've developed some kind of technology, that it is you're able to scale that technology. It's also looking at your systems and processes, because once you start getting globally, like if you're an online business is very different. If you're a type of product-based business, to give you the example of, say, a mid-tech startup, there's more things involved that you need to consider, and a lot more strategy around it. So that will include things such as, okay, how do we ship products? If we manufacture in a certain country, how do we from there ship to other countries? What kind of ERP systems? What does that customer journey look like, especially if you do have that product or service? How do you onboard? You have to look at things a little bit differently than, say, for example, if you are a retail store and you're purely online, you know, you're able to scale that very differently than if you are a service or a product-based business where you are delivering those services directly to customers. So, for example, if you look at, again, our product, if our product is for veterinarians, we had to look at an onboarding system or a way to onboard those veterinarians that it can be done easily. It can be done with not necessarily having someone there holding their hand all the way. So we had to look at putting processes, platforms in place to be able to do that. In order to scale also, again, depending on your business, you may need to look at investment and how you're going to do that, because unless you have deep pockets, you know, scaling globally does take a lot of revenue to be able to do that. My recommendation also would be, if you're looking at this, is to get advice on how you can do that, and get advice on someone or a company that has enabled small businesses to scale, because there'll be a checklist and they'll be working with you directly to be able to do that. Again, I'm talking more around service, product-based rather than online businesses like online retail stores. because again, you can build online quite, I guess, rigorously. Again, it does take time. You know, online stores or retail stores, it's around your customers, how you're engaging. Again, having the back end in your business to be able to cope with online orders and so forth. So there's still a lot of work to be able to do that. Not unattainable, but it does involve a really good strategy around that.
Thank you so much, Gabriella, for your time and for sharing this insight with the audience. Do you have any exciting news, perhaps a project you think it's going to add value, immense value to the audience? You can share them if you have any.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'm in the process again. This is part of the strategy I've been working with my PR team, and I actually do have a couple of employees around providing, I guess, services to small businesses and startups. And so we will be relaunching our new website probably early to mid-July, and part of that will be services for small businesses and startups. So that's my sweet spot. I love working in that space. Part of that will be around one-on-one coaching. We are looking at doing, and we're preparing at the moment, I guess a online, I guess it's a course you could call it, where you are going through that process of starting your business, and I'm there holding your hand all the way. We also have services where if you are in a tech startup, you're struggling to kind of get to your minimal viable product, we have project management resources, because again, I have a lot of experience, my team does, with going from zero to minimal viable product. And then we're also launching fractional services. So fractional services are, for example, if you've got a project, you may need a software development person for a period of time. We have services like that, even marketing pertaining to video, if you're wanting to do more things around video content. We have fractional services that can actually help your business on a project by project basis. So yeah, so that should be launching hopefully mid to end July. But by all means, I'm already offering those now. We're just making it more official. It's out there, you know, so people can actually tap into those services rather than having to email me, hey, can we do this or can we do that? And so again, a lot of my journey, you know, I've had to go through that process of, okay, to think big, to duplicate myself. I've had to really go through the mental pain, as we always do, of working on my business to make sure that this is something I'm able to scale without me being in the business 24/7.
Right, good to know. Thanks for sharing that and for also making it official to the audience. I appreciate that. Can we have your social media handles and your website? Well, they're optional, but feel free to share if you have them.
Yeah, so I have my website, which is www.dynamicunicorns.com. And currently we will be also, this is all part of it, launching that website in North America at the end of July. So there'll be an actually dedicated website for that. I do have obviously my social medias, which is at Dynamic Unicorns, or on Facebook, the Dynamic Unicorns community. And then I've also got my YouTube channel, which is Get Real with Gab. So we've just started doing podcasts. We also have a lot of shorts on there. And what the podcasts are is that I just have real conversations with people in business. You know, it's raw. You know, I pride myself on not doing a lot of editing in that sense. So people can see that, you know, this is raw conversations. These are struggles people go through. This is how they got through it. And so, yeah, so Get Real with Gab is on YouTube. Yeah, if you want to have a look at some of those podcasts, by all means. And if you want to connect, yeah, please reach out. I love meeting new people. I'm also on LinkedIn, Gabrielle Browne. Love meeting new people, love having conversations.
Very good to know. Thank you, Gabrielle Browne, for your time and for sharing your insight on today's topic of discussion, disrupting the hustle culture narratives, how we can begin to build with sanity, not without burnout. And now, Gabrielle Browne is the creator and founder of Dynamic Unicorn, business advisory services for startups, small businesses, and folks over 50s. We had a great time listening to your expertise as we explore this important topic, especially for startups, the entrepreneurs, and also the solopreneurs. It was great having you indeed. Wish you best of luck once again in all of the
Thank you.
projects that you embark upon and also in your podcast career.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me today. And I just wanted to say for you and your audience, I really appreciate your time. I wish you all success. And by all means, if I can support your journeys, please just reach out. I would love to know more about your businesses and how I can support you all.
Absolutely. Good to know. Thanks for that, Gabrielle. It's
Appreciate
been
it.
like we're all into Omobola Stephen, where Mindship conversation lives. And had a great time with Gabrielle Browne indeed. If you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of the podcast, you can do so on any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online or any podcast cross promotion platforms online, and do have a great time as we focus on personal development and self-improvement topics that is literally going to pivot the changes and transformations that you and I need indeed from expert and professionals who are adept in these topics. I always need you to stay safe. I talk to you soon. Thank you once again, Gabrielle,
Thank
for
you
your
so
time.
much.
Have a good time indeed. I appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.